Welcome to Page One, the show for writers with the reader in mind. Here's your host, Zita Christian.
Hi everyone, welcome to Page One. I'm Zita Christian. My guest tonight is a fellow member of the Charter Oak Romance Writers, and her name is Kate Rothwell. My guest tonight is also Summer Devon, and but you'll notice there's only one person sitting here in the chair next to me, and that's because Kate, you write as in your own name, Kate Rothwell, and the alter ego Summer Devon. We're going to meet both women tonight, which I think will be a lot of fun. I should also tell the audience, there's a 6-member crew on Page One, 3 men and 3 women. All the women on the Page One crew are romance writers. So, and now my guest is a romance writer also. This is wonderful. A lot to talk about. So, Kate, I know first you are a prolific writer. I was looking on your website and I'm seeing contemporary, historical, Regency, paranormal, fantasy. You've gone the traditional publishing route with paperback originals, and you've done the electronic publishing, and I believe some of the print on demand. Yes?
Yeah, one of my books is print on demand. That's just because people who are reading my ebooks wanted me to do it on print on demand. So it's actually my one self-published book. So.
Wonderful, wonderful. I want to start by talking about the traditional books, the original paperback original books that, and I know you have 2 of them that you wrote as Kate Rothwell, published by Kensington. What were those 2 titles?
Somebody Wonderful and Somebody to Love.
I love that. I love the tie-in with the somebodies. And in doing a little research before the show, I find out Somebody Wonderful, Romantic Times finalist for Best First Historical. That's pretty awesome. Yeah. I mean, Romantic Times, those are all romance readers. And so to get an award from them, that's significant. And then reviewers, national organization, they also named Somebody Wonderful. They gave you the Golden Rose, which is a Reader's Choice award.
Yeah, that was actually 2 different organizations. The Golden Rose is from Reader's Choice.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought that was their award.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So it was the Reviewers International and the Golden Rose.
It got good reception, that book did, and I got spoiled. So.
Well, what do you mean by spoiled?
Well, I figured I'm published. This is it. You know, I've reached it, and I had this great book that people really love, and now I'm going to have this other great book that people really love, and then that was.
And then things change.
Yeah, and then things change.
And it's a cycle. Yeah. I mean, I think anybody who's publishing knows it's a cycle. You know, and then especially right now, though, so much about the publishing world is changing with electronic publishing that it's just a whole new world now in publishing.
Yeah, definitely. It's
so
fun.
It is, yeah. It's a challenge, but it's huge opportunities, and I think in some ways we just have to have a different mindset.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's fun because the first book I wrote, Somebody Wonderful, I got these. The edits were these stacks of papers. I would FedEx it to my editor, and she'd FedEx it back, and there were little yellow stickies all over it. And it was just, it was big, bulky paper. And I know the people who are still writing still get the big, bulky paper, but now they get the discs. Only in the last couple of years do they start sending off the discs and emailing, and instead of using the FedEx, I guess it cuts down on the costs.
Yes.
But, and also the publishers like Sam Hain and Alora's Cave and Liquid Silver, those kind of guys. Better reception from the New York publishers. Like one of my books, which I'm not going to hold up because of the cover, 2 of my books actually, are actually published by Simon & Schuster, even though they're Alora's Cave. There's a whole sort of meshing of the electronic and the traditional New York publishers, which is very cool.
It really is. It is truly a frontier, I think, for publishing now. Before I leave Somebody Wonderful and Somebody to Love, what were those books about?
They're set in the 1880s in New York City, and the first book was about an Irish cop who came to New York. I was inspired by Harpo Marx's autobiography. He had a line in there about how the cops had to bang on the curbs with their nightsticks to call for help. And wow, what a way to live. And also, the hero's name is Mick, which is an insult. It's a slur. And so I thought that was, what it would be like to go to a place, to be an immigrant, and to go somewhere and find out your name is an insult. So that was inspired by that. The second book was inspired by the fact that I finally read my contract and discovered that the book was due in a month. And I hadn't started it.
What?
Yeah. I wrote the second book in a month. I was writing 30, 40 pages a day.
Did you sleep?
No, and in fact I had little kids at the time, and my husband was wonderful. He took over our lives. He made the meals, and I just really... So the second book, it actually, considering it turned out okay, but I look at that book and I still sort of...
Well, the Reviewers International also gave that book was up for it was a finalist, I think, in their contest too.
Yeah, and it got 4 stars from Romantic Times, and people like it. In fact, a couple of reviewers said it was way better than my first, and I was like, I was impressed.
Give you that pressure deadline.
I suppose, or else it just, I don't know, it hit them in the right spot.
Having done, well, let me ask, how long did it take you to write the first one?
I can't remember, because it's one of those books, when you don't have deadlines, it's you just sort of take your time. I guess I try to write a lot. I started out as a writer. I was I wrote for newspapers and magazines. I was a feature editor for a magazine. And so I got good at sitting down and writing. That's what I do. I don't need, or at least I was good at that. So I do 10 pages a day, but I work more than one book at a time. So 10 pages a day, 100 pages, something like that. I can't. That's how long it takes me to write a book.
Well, having done the first book with a little bit of that luxury of time, and then doing the second book in a month, which do you prefer?
The first book.
I would kind of imagine. But I do from some people who say they love to write under pressure.
I don't mind writing under pressure, but that was a bit much.
That had to have been exhausting.
Yeah. Well, and also when I turned it in, the editor, I actually had to rewrite it because she said it wasn't a romance. And she was absolutely right. She was a great editor. And I had to go back and turn it into a romance, which was an interesting experience. I had to write 2 synopses. One was the action, what my friend Shannon calls the and then synopsis, which is the and then. And then I had to write the growth of the relationship. And ever since then, that's basically what I do. How the relationship changes and grows, and how the people are changed by each other. And that's basically when I plan a book, that's how I do it now. So
that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's a good tool.
Yeah, it's a great tool. Okay. And then when you're writing erotic fiction, then you add
Yes.
another layer, and that, you want that particular asset of the book to also grow and change, because otherwise it's just mechanical.
Well, let's get to that then. First, with Kate Rothwell, writing as Kate Rothwell, straight romantic historicals. Mm-hmm. Now, do you write other romances under Kate Rothwell?
I just signed a contract to have a young adult with the Alora's Cave has Caradwin. I don't know how you pronounce it.
Caradwin?
Caradwin, yeah. It's a young adult based on Daddy Longlegs, which was my favorite book when I was a kid.
Oh.
And so it's a modern day Daddy Longlegs, but with the leads switched, the male and the female switched.
Okay, so that's a Kate Rothwell.
Yeah. I was going to have it be yet another name, but I decided, after talking to a lot of people who are annoyed by pseudonyms, readers who don't like it, that I would save. I think it's good to have a pseudonym for the stuff that's a little hotter, but not for any other genres. And if it's not a Summer Devon, then it's going to be a Kate Rothwell, whether it's modern or historical young adult or...
All right. Yeah. Well, let's talk about Summer Devon. Mm-hmm. So when you write as Summer Devon, you're writing erotica.
It's not erotica. It's romantic. It's there's okay. I got the definitions for you, and I hope this is okay.
Sure.
Okay. Pornography is just body parts, and erotica is body parts and thinking people, real people, and erotic romance is body parts, thinking people, and also emotional contacts. So it's a little more complicated than straight pornography and a little more emotionally involved than plain old erotica.
So the name, so am I correct in assuming then that you chose a pseudonym because there were two very different kinds of books?
Yeah, and also because I have kids who would have gone, who go ballistic. It's bad enough that I write romance, but yeah, I did that. And also because I don't want my regular Kate Rothwell readers who don't want a lot of heat. I mean, all of my books are romances, but some of them definitely have more, more of an emphasis on the sexual stuff than.
Well, a couple questions about for Summer Devon. Where did the name come from?
I got my first call for Summer Devon during a blizzard, and so I thought, okay, I got to have a name that's all about, desire. So I said, okay, Summer, I really want Summer.
Yeah.
And then I picked another last name, and I talked to my sister on the phone, and she said, oh, no, that doesn't sound sensual enough. Oh, boy, and we talked some more, and she said, oh, I really want to go to Devon, because she lived in England for a while. I said, okay, so if we're talking about desire, my desire for Summer and your desire to go to Devon. So that's how the name came up. And so it's all about, longing and tension. And
so the name itself is filled with longing. That's really good.
Yeah.
The whole idea of writing the erotic romance, I understand that this is a rapidly growing aspect of the market.
Yeah, I think it's because women are into it more than they used to be. And I think electronic publishing is where it started out, in electronic publishing, because you don't have to have a cover. You could just order it. You don't have to go into a bookstore. And so I think it started with like Alora's Cave, which was the Vanguard, and Liquid Silver, and then later on Samhain. And I can't think of any other imprints, but those people started out. And it really still is sort of shifting it. Now they've got Aphrodisia with Kensington and Avon Red, so it's going mainstream now.
Sure.
But I think it's also getting kind of flooded. But I said that about vampires. I have no idea. You can't guess what's going to come next.
No, and that's an important point to make. And I hear editors say it all the time, especially to new writers, not to write to the market, but because by the time you finish the book, the market might have changed.
Yeah, and it changes so fast with electronic publishing. It just changes so fast. Right now, the really hot, because you have to always push the envelope with erotica stuff, especially, is it's bondage and BDSM and Brokeback Mountain. The people who are reading it are women, but the most popular. I think what sells really the best, if you look at the titles on the top 10 on those things, they're almost, and Shapeshifters are still really hot. But like I said, like you said, just because it's hot right now,
right?
It's not going to stay
Who's to say, the next sizzle comes along.
Yeah.
Before we leave Kate Rothwell, because I want to talk more about Summer Devon, and I also want to talk about your writing life, because you are living the writing life, and I want to get some information about that. But first, this is page 1.
Okay.
And whenever I have a guest on the show who is an author, I love to ask the author to read page 1 from a book. And because we air in a family hour, I'm going to ask you to read a Kate Rothwell book. This is from the first book, Somebody Wonderful, which is just an absolutely beautiful book. But I will ask you, if you would, to read page 1 from this book.
Get out I'm still not used to wearing these things, these reading glasses.
I started a couple years ago, and I can't be without them.
Okay, I don't read my own books once I do this, but Laurie the camera woman assures me this is fine.
Yes.
So this is set in New York City, 1882. Oh, can I just point out something?
Sure.
I just love the fact that can you show the Dutch translation of this book? Because this book is set in New York City, and there is the Dutch translation. I have a couple, every cover that's from another, it's from another country.
This is supposed to be New York City?
There's another one. The Portuguese
like wasteland somewhere.
Portuguese translation has it set in a field with a little wooden picket house. You just got to wonder. I can't read those languages. I wonder what it sounds like. All right, so I'll read this. But Oh, I'm not very good at reading my own stuff. Okay, sorry, whoever's. Okay, this is New York, 1882. Mick had finished his beat and was strolling home from the precinct when the ruckus broke out. He could ignore it, the shouts and running footsteps echoing from the dark alley. God knew he wanted to ignore it. He'd had a hell of a couple of days on duty, and all he wanted was 10 or 20 hours of uninterrupted sleep. Someone howled, a wordless cry of wild, gleeful menace. He stopped undoing the tight top button of his wool frock coat and peered down the street into the shadowy corner. A pack of scruffy, mostly grown boys scrambled out of the alley. Probably the newly formed band of street Arabs, all the big talk in McPhee's Tavern. Nothing so tough as a real gang, but worth keeping an eye on. On the corner, the ragged boys shuffled forward, circled, closed in, thin shoulders hunched up, the air electric with anticipation before an attack. What had they found? A cat stupid enough to venture from a shadowy basement, a near-starved dog. In the center of the circle, an arm flashed out. A shout twisted into a scream, cut unnaturally short. Animal, a human.
Okay, lots of atmosphere. That's what I always like to hear the first page of a novel because it's such a study for a writer to decide where to begin and to the craft of writing to see what kind of information can be put into that opening. And this is already filled with action, suspense. We have a little mystery here going on. You've got sounds and it's evocative of the place.
Well, the thing, in medias res, is that how you say it? I don't know how you pronounce it, but you start in the middle of the action.
Yes.
And if you find yourself putting in a lot of backstory, then you know you've started in the wrong spot, or you have to put the backstory in little feeding. You have to feed it in. You can't suddenly drop in a whole bunch of, you can't interrupt the action because you'll lose your reader. Yeah. And so. Anyway.
Yeah, a common mistake from new writers.
Yeah.
In fact, let me just let everybody know, if you're just joining us, you're watching page 1. I'm Zita Christian, and my guest is Kate Rothwell. My guest is also Summer Devon, because she writes under two names, two very, very different books. The all-encompassing everything under Kate Rothwell, and the erotic romance under Summer Devon. I also know, Kate, that you have 2 undergraduate degrees in what?
I went to the museum school in Boston, and then I went to Hood College in Frederick, and I got a journalism degree down in Frederick, which is where I lived until 10 years ago, and where I worked as on a magazine and then a couple of newspapers. I had a kids newspaper down there. So, cool. So I've been writing all my adult life. It was much more fun to write fiction. I don't have to spell the names right. No, I don't get any nasty letters. Well, I do, but not about. Not that I got the facts wrong.
That's really good. There's something new, or for me anyway, relatively new in the whole electronic publishing world, and that's this, or communication world, this whole concept of a blog. And I know that you participate in a group blog. Or the erotic muses?
Yeah, the erotic muses.
So tell us, for the benefit of people in the audience who might not know about a blog, tell us about that.
Well, it stands for, I think I'll get this right. No, I won't get it right. It's electronic blogging. It's like a diary. There's all sorts of electronic ways to catch up with people. Blogs are like journals. A group blog, I do one day a week. I do Thursdays. My cohorts do the other days. There's also Facebook and Twitter, and I'm on all of those things because I want to reach readers, and I'm lazy, and it's easier than going to places like this. And it's also a lot of fun because you get all the latest trends coming really quickly. You know immediately when a book is doing well, so it's very fun.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, are there any? I think of blogs as almost like a syndicated newspaper column, in the sense if somebody follows one, like if they find one they love, a reader finds a blog that she loves and follows it all the time, like reading a syndicated newspaper column in a paper. So are there any blogs you follow on a regular basis?
Oh, absolutely. Paperback writer. See, the problem is I don't know their email addresses, or not their email, their URLs. Yeah, but you can look them up. Sure. Paperback writer. I tend to follow blogs that are industry based. Like there's a bunch of editors and agents who have blogs, and I tend to read their blogs. The Swivet by Colleen Lindsay. She's not an agent I'd ever take, but I love her voice. I have my own personal blog, so the people who read my blog and come in and talk to me, I tend to go out to their blog and read
check
it.
that.
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, because and I do it for fun, but I also do it to keep up with what's going on. It's as good as going to a conference.
And it's ongoing. It has to be ongoing.
Oh yeah, I'm a little lazier with blogging than I used to be because I do more of the Twitter and Facebook and all the rest of it. So it's my social life.
See, now I hear that and I think, my gosh, I know you're awfully busy. I mean, I know that from the work you do with the Charter Oak Romance Writers, which we're both members. In fact, all of the women on the crew are also members of the Charter Oak Romance Writers.
Yeah.
But I know that because you...
And we have a contest. We're having a contest.
We have a contest coming up, that's right, and it's a good organization to belong to.
Yeah.
But I want to talk with you a little bit about the writing life. So somebody told me that you write in your pajamas, that you're not...
I brought them along.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Okay, let's see here.
I brought along my writing uniform. This is my...
Oh.
I don't know why I did. I guess in case I got here and decided I didn't like what I was wearing, I could cover it all up with my particular uniform. This is my bathrobe.
Oh, you're losing your mic.
I'm losing my mic. Oh, no.
There we go. No, you're fine. I just didn't want to cover it up.
Oh, okay.
But so it's not a matter of sitting in an evening gown or sitting in the negligee or any of the stereotypes, right? Of the feather.
The chocolate's there.
Oh, the chocolate.
I do make sure
right.
the chocolate.
I mean, that's a classic.
The bonbons.
Yeah, yeah, as it should be. Tell me a little bit about the editing process. How editing through Kensington traditional paperback original books and editing through the Alora's Cave, where so much is electronic. How does that process differ?
Yeah, it depends on the editor. I've had a lot of editors, and my favorite editor was Hilary Sayers with the Somebody Wonderful, just because she was my first, and because she's a lovely person. She's not there anymore. She just left a couple months ago. But I really like Lindsay, who's my editor at sorry, Lindsay, Sam Hain, and I have a new editor who's in Australia. Now that's something interesting. I have an Australian editor for Alora's Cave, so it's all done by email.
But with email, yeah, it's all possible.
and there's you have to know how to use Word. Everybody uses Word, and you have to know how to do review in Word and
those
put in the comments. Yeah, and you have to know the style. Houses, the different houses have different style guides. Like you can't use semicolons in some houses.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I had to take out all my parentheses. I had a lot of parenthetical comments in my first two books, and they don't like them there, so you take them all out. It's interesting. I love the editing part. I love rewriting. Even the time I had to write a book in a month and then rewrite it in 3 weeks. I'm complaining about it, but it's really fun.
Well, I know you mentioned earlier that you're working on a young adult novel under Kate Rothwell. Is there another book as Summer Devon coming out?
Not coming out. I have a bunch I might have one coming out actually, but I haven't had it accepted yet. She wants to work on it some more before she sends me a contract. I'm working on 2 historicals. One is based on sort of a Nellie Bly story, and then one is based on, one. I have actually 3 historicals finished, and my agent is sending them out, but,
Well, speaking of agents, I know, it's such a long process, and it's just like you send it out, and then you wait, and you wait. I know you have the agent for your Kate Rothwell historicals. Do you also have an agent for the Summer Devon?
No, she would sell a Summer Devon. She doesn't want to deal with not yet with the electronic press. She does just deal with New York City. You don't get advances with electronic press. You just get but you do get a monthly paycheck, which is nice. With the mass market paperbacks, you get paid twice a year. You get the advance, and the agent gets a big chunk of that. And then you get paid twice a year. With the electronic publishing, you don't get an advance, but you get as you sell copies, you get a bigger chunk.
It's a much bigger percentage.
Although the traditional publishers are doing electronic copies, they're not giving as much. I think they're giving like 15%, and with the electronic publishers, it's more like 40%. So
Oh, that's a huge difference.
Yeah, it really is. Although you get bigger, even with the New York publishers, you'll get more sales.
You get more sales, and you have a whole publicity department behind you.
Yeah,
and there are pros and cons for
you
both.
get the translations. Now that's where the money. I have translated into Portuguese and Italian and Spanish, and and that's where that's
Sure.
You don't get that with the electronic. Although I guess Alora's Cave is now getting some translating stuff going on. And there might be other e-publishers, I just don't know, that have that happening.
Do you go to conferences?
I haven't for a while. I'm maybe going to the one in D.C., the Romance Writers of America conference down in D.C., because mostly to go see my friends.
Well, I'll be there too, yeah.
Yeah, you will.
Yeah, so I want to ask you one more question, though, about the Summer Devon books, the erotic romance. Do most people who are publishing in that field have an agent, or is it a field where a writer can break in without having an agent?
Oh, you can break into any field without, although these days...
Some are harder than others,
Well, I don't know. I mean, I didn't have an agent when I sold to Kensington. I don't know. I don't know if they have agents. I think they do, because, now Avon and those big guys are starting to starting to publish the... Yeah, I think they do have agents, and there are a few agents that specialize in it. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I of course can't think of any names off the top of my head.
That's okay. We just have about 2 minutes left, and Kate, I want to ask you if you would draw a question from the crystal bowl.
Oh man. Okay. Do I start with character or plot? Character.
Oh. You
Character.
do?
Oh yeah, very much. So I walk
Tell me a
around with the
little.
people in my head all the time. That might be part of the reason that I definitely enjoy spending time with the people and the plot. Sometimes the plot elements come to me right away, but usually I have to think about putting them in different situations and seeing how they would respond to the situation, and then deciding, is that an interesting one? I know a lot more about my characters than ever shows up. I know
have to.
Yeah, I know all about them. And the ones I don't particularly like, it's no fun spending time with them.
Well, and I think too, for books that where romance is the key feature, you have to start with the characters. I mean, that's why the readers.
Yeah, that makes sense. Everybody's got a different method of writing. The pantsers, the seat of the pants people versus the plotters, and so individually. Mine, it happens to be characters.
Mine too.
Oh, okay.
On that mutual note here, I'm getting the signal that we're out of time. So, Kate Rothwell, thank you very much for joining us, and Summer Devon, thank you very much for joining us.
Why, thank you.
Yes, and let me just also thank the Page One crew tonight, and for you in the viewing audience. Ursula Le Guin said, there have been civilizations that did not have the wheel, but there have been no civilizations that did not have stories. So find your story and tell it, but do join us again next time. Thank you.
Food for the crew and guests was provided by Manchester Grill of Manchester, Connecticut, and Angelo's Restaurant of Glastonbury, Connecticut. Be sure to send your writing questions and your comments on the book club selection to Zita at Page One, P.O. Box 1515, Manchester, Connecticut, 06045-1515, or send an email to Zita at pageonetv.com.